Hello, beautiful birders. Another day of birding here in beautiful Alberta. Today I'm exploring Wyndham-Carseland Provincial Park, which is located on the Bow River, about 60 kilometers east of Calgary. It features riparian, balsam poplar forests, and a mix of shrub and grassland habitats as well. I like it for winter birding because there's a lot of different species you can see here. There are two parts of the parks. There's a day use area on the north side of the river, and there's a campsite on the south side of the river. I like visiting the campsite in the winter because there's not many people and it offers some great access to the habitats. I checked out the day use area to start the day, and I saw a couple moose and some mule deer, but decided to focus most of my birding here. So come along with me, let's see some cool birds on a beautiful, warm winter's day here in Alberta. One of the first birds I saw that morning was a black-billed magpie. It's one of the most common birds in Alberta, but also one of my favorites. They have a gorgeous black and white plumage and just seem to bleed with intelligence. They are such smart birds and they have a lot of personality. You just wonder what they're thinking. One of the species I came here to see is American tree sparrow. Just saw one. Kind of funny because it was mixed in with some house sparrows, but one of our only native sparrows that overwinters here in Alberta. So there's a new bird on the year. I saw quite a few flickers flying around that morning. Flickers seem to be getting frisky here in Alberta. Seeing their courtship is one of the first signs of spring. I heard a couple doing their courtship dance. It's this pretty funny dance with some weird sounds, but I missed capturing it. But I've been hearing them calling and drumming more and more, which is making me excited for the spring. One interesting thing about Alberta is it lies in the contact zone between the two flicker subspecies, which are the red-shafted flicker and yellow-shafted flicker. It's always interesting to see which bird has what characters, and you often do see these intermediate birds that are basically hybrids of the two subspecies. But I think that morning they were just red-shafted flickers. Don't go vegan, love Alberta meat. Here's some of that meat they were talking about. So much of the Bow River in this neck of the woods out on the prairie is frozen at this time of year, but one of the reasons I like the park here is there's a dam, and so there is consistent open water, and what that means is there's a great opportunity to see waterfowl. There's several hundred waterfowl behind me. I've yet to kind of take a look and see what they are, but certainly mallards, golden eyes, and Canada geese. So yeah, beautiful spot and a good place to see some ducks. Here at this park, we are located firmly within the prairie grasslands natural region of Alberta. This area has been extensively cultivated though. There's not much remaining native grassland. However, the slope behind me have never been cultivated. Not practical to seed it with introduced grasses or cultivate it, obviously. And so these slopes do feature native grassland habitats, which is always nice. So this is a balsam poplar behind me. We don't have a ton of tree species in Alberta. There's like 10. And of our deciduous trees, balsam poplar and trembling aspen are some of the most common, and they're closely related, being the same genus. You can tell a balsam poplar because they have this dark furrowed bark, whereas a trembling aspen has much smoother bark, at least when it's kind of this size of tree. So I stopped here to hang out with the typical North American forest bird species, black-capped chickadee, white-breasted nuthatch, and downy woodpecker. It's pretty clear that these birds have been fed. They are flocking all over me. I think even the house sparrows would land in my hand if I had some food. Nice to just spend some time with these birds, even if they are pretty common and widespread. It's easy to overlook the diminutive downy woodpecker, but they're a bird I have a lot of appreciation for just because they bring a lot of color into the otherwise frozen forest here in Alberta during the winter. They have a beautiful plumage and a lot of personality. One interesting thing about woodpeckers is their intelligence. While corvids like magpies get a lot of attention for being really smart, woodpeckers are also highly intelligent birds. Maybe not corvid level, but they've ranked pretty high in relative intelligence scores. This makes sense as they have to remember where all their food sources are throughout a complex 3D environment. So just because they slam their face against solid wood for a living doesn't mean they're dumb. Just like it's easy to overlook the beauty and intelligence of the downy woodpecker, you can miss how downright goofy nuthatches are. I just love the way they crawl along the trees, and these ones have a lot of personality, being pretty habituated to humans. They were basically begging for me to feed them. These birds were a bit spoiled. They would have landed on my hand if I had food, for sure. Just like the downies, I am very appreciative that they exist, because otherwise the winter would be pretty sad. You can see this bird working to retrieve a cached sunflower seed from the bark of the tree. It's pretty interesting behavior, and it makes me always wonder how many dozens or hundreds of caches they must have all around over the forest. So one sort of weird thing that I noticed today is the number of house sparrows that are in this park. Normally I don't see house sparrows within more of a naturalized park, maybe sometimes on the fringes if there's houses or whatnot, but I'm not entirely sure why that is, whether it's because people do leave a lot of birdseed at this park, so maybe that could help their population. There's a lot of flicker activity, so maybe there are a lot of cavities for them to live in, or maybe they're using some of the campsite structures to live within. But can't be good for our native birds. So on my way back to Calgary, I decided to check out some of the frozen back roads, and I was fortunate enough to see a snowy owl. It's actually in front of me, quite far away, maybe 300, 400 meters, something like that. Always cool to see a snowy owl. That's a new bird on the year. And also ran into a group of horned larks, which is a really cool songbird species, our only native lark here in North America. And they are one of the earliest songbirds to return out here to the prairies. Males are here now, and they are working to set up a territory. This horned lark gave me a pretty good view and let me get pretty close. They seem to be pretty wary birds. Because of its black mask, you can tell it's a male. You can see its black little devil horns in this shot. This species shows a lot of plumage variation. Some Arctic birds lack the yellow on the head, while some eastern birds have much more yellow on their head. This looks like it's one of our prairie birds that could be a year-round resident here, but more likely recently migrated from the south. I also saw a few ring-necked pheasants. As far as exotic species go, they don't get much better looking than these pheasants. The male's plumage is just spectacular. They are also a wary bird, and for good reason. They are a species that is very coveted by hunters here in Alberta. But despite being an introduced species, they're still an interesting bird to see. That's it for today, so thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. You never know what you're going to get with birding. I'm pretty happy to cap my day off with a snowy owl. So thanks for watching, and until next time, happy birding.